Hey guys, so bit of a change in background here. I realised that I sit down far too much and I should get outside. So today's video is coming to you on a walk. So I want to talk about Palantir, obviously, and especially about how Palantir has recently managed to break a pretty big milestone, a pretty big barrier. Now, going back to Friday was a good day for Palantir. It went across $30 per share. It did pretty well. Tuesday rolled around and it didn't go so well. You know, it fell back below the 30 and then it was sort of like, okay, what's going to happen next? And then yesterday, Tuesday came and it was another very, very good day. But it wasn't just good for Palantir, it was good across the entire market. We had most positions across the market being up. We had, in particular, Starbucks doing very, very well. I think it ended the day up by like 20%, maybe 30%. Why is that? Well, that is because Starbucks now have a new CEO, and that CEO is a very, very successful CEO that came over from Chipotle. So yeah, that was really, really well received. Obviously, a good CEO really does make the difference. And I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but apparently the old Starbucks CEO refused to work past 6 p.m. Don't know how true that is, but that could be a little bit of a problem. Tesla did very, very well yesterday as well. They were up about 5% on the day, if memory serves me right. And the main reason for that was good China numbers. And also, I think it had something to do with the fact that Trump and Musk went on a Spaces. And I think that built a lot of momentum. People thinking that actually, depending on the outcome of the election, could be very, very good for Tesla, which is something that I've been speaking about a lot. And then we had Nvidia also do pretty well. That seems to be a few different things. Number one, earnings are coming up at the end of August. People may be, increased buying pressure before that event takes place. Typically, Nvidia have done very, very well during earnings, so people are expecting that, I suppose. Also, analysts are getting very, very bullish, releasing reports. I have a leaf stuck to my shoe. Yeah, and I think the Blackwell delay, maybe that event is being reassessed and people aren't so worried about that anymore. So yeah, good day across the board, but also our good friend Palantir closed above $30. Now, I want to point out that Palantir hasn't actually been able to close above $30 prior to Friday, since February 2021. So it's a pretty big deal. So I suppose the question that we have now is, okay, it's broken the $30 level. Can it actually sustain this? Can it hold this? And could it even potentially go higher? So what I want to point out firstly is that actually in the short term, this does not matter. It doesn't matter. Short-term investing, obviously reserved for some people. Myself, I'm not a short-term investor. I'm not trying to trade. It doesn't really matter to me if it goes above 30 or below 30 over the next few weeks, even the next few months. Long-term, of course, long-term mindset here, it would be a little bit of a problem if in 5 years we were still seeing Palantir just below 30 or at 30, especially if the business itself was doing well. I'd have some concerns. I am not investing into Palantir for it to be in a decade's time or half a decade's time still at that $30. Of course, I'm trying to create wealth here. We all are. But yeah, short term doesn't really matter. It's interesting to think about. Long term, you have your long term mindset, you keep buying, you keep analysing the underlying business, you keep thinking about the fundamentals. Is it still a growing business? Am I still convicted? Am I still bullish? And I keep saying that $30 per share is a milestone. And it's a milestone due to a few different factors. Firstly, there are lots of resistant levels around that point. Now, I'm not claiming to know much about technical analysis or trading indicators or anything like that, but there's resistance levels, number one, due to lots and lots of call options. There's a lot of pressure at that sort of level. Number two, it's a bit of a psychological barrier. It's a mental price that the community have wanted to break through for quite a while. And number three, as Palantir stock rises towards $30 a share, you see a lot of people, whether that's retail investors, institutional owners, fund managers, whatever, they start putting their sell orders in and they start taking profit. Of course, the whole stock market is ran by buying and selling volumes, and that can make the stock price then come back down. It tries to hit over that 30, lots of sales, and then it comes back down again, and it keeps trying, it keeps testing. And you know, since 2021, like I said, we haven't actually managed to close above that $30. Now, talking a little bit more about resistance levels, and obviously there are different types of these, but the 38.2% Fibonacci resistance level was around the $27.39 sort of area, I think it was. We've broken through that. That looks promising, and I think, you know, that looks to be broken now, so that could be a really, really bullish sign. There has been enough buying pressure to actually break through and hold that break of that resistance level. So that looks promising. Now, if we'll have to check in, if it can stay above the pivot point of around $29.94, I think it is, and actually break through the 30.62 to 30.68, lots of numbers coming here at you, it could then move higher. But these are technical indicators, you know, these are resistance levels. Not everyone is going to be very interested in this. But the point is, it could still definitely fall back below that $30. Now, the RSI is actually showing us that right now, Palantir stock could continue to rise before it actually gets into that over-purchased territory. So maybe there is still room for more gains here. You know, we'll just have to wait and see. And personally, like I've said many times, traded indicators, technical analysis, it's very interesting. I'm starting to learn much more about it as time goes on, but I definitely do not use it as the only thing when I'm deciding whether to buy, whether to sell, what to invest into, because to me, following the company, tracking what the company are doing and how that particular company is changing industries is much more important and way more interesting. But you know, these technical indicators and analysis can actually help you maybe find out your entry points and your exit points a lot better. But even so, Palantir stock has risen like over 16% in 5 days or so, which is, you know, very, very impressive, big moves. Why has it done that? Well, I think one of the main reasons is the Q2 earnings. You know, that's built a lot of momentum. They were absolutely fantastic earnings. I made a whole video on that. I was so impressed, so chuffed with those results. But aside from that, there are also some other big reasons in the last few days. Number one, we had the Wendys partnership. Number two, we had the Microsoft partnership, and I'm going to break these down in just a second. And number three, we had Surf OS operating system, which we'll get to a little bit at the end of the video, but I'll reserve that one for a separate video because it's so important to talk about. And also we do have a bonus one, which is the S&P 500 inclusion. So yeah, let me break these down. So firstly, Wendys. We heard Palantir announced that they were partnering with the cooperation, so not Wendys itself, but the cooperation that handles the supply chain for Wendys, which is of course a massive food company, mainly in America, I think. Anyway, I'm waffling. This partnership with Wendys, I'll say Wendys, it's easier to say than saying the supply chain company, the management company. But anyway, this partnership with Wendys is broken down into 2 phases. So phase 1, Wendys will basically onboard Palantir's AIP, and that will be to enhance decision-making abilities across the entire supply chain network. So that's phase 1. And then they will, and basically that is like with any Palantir partnership that we hear about, taking all different data sources from various areas and putting them into one centralized source of truth, one platform. That's really important. And it goes without saying as to why this is going to be such a good thing for Wendys, but it's going to help with managing operations. It's going to help with anticipating problems before they actually arise, and also optimizing the entire supply chain. And then they will move on to phase 2, which is really interesting. This phase is all about leveraging the power of AIP to actually address specific use cases for the Wendys supply chain. So it will be related to supply chain management and waste prevention, I believe, are going to be the 2 main areas. Now, of course, this is going to lead to massive cost savings, and this will be cost savings that go across over 6,400 Wendys restaurants. So that is going to have a massive impact financially to the business. And then we had a partnership announced with none other than the massive, large cap, mega cap, I should say, company Microsoft. Now, this is obviously a very, very big deal. And it's really interesting because just a few days prior to this partnership being announced, we heard the Microsoft CEO actually mention during their earnings call, that Palantir is a leader in their industry. And that was a massive, shout out. But then roll forward a few days, we heard about this partnership with Microsoft and Palantir. So now that shout out makes complete sense because, you know, in the background, they are actually cooking up something pretty tasty. And, you know, they have worked together before. Palantir and Microsoft have worked together before. But in my humble opinion, this time, this deal is a lot bigger. It holds more significance. So they are going to be collaborating, put really simply, to bring advanced AI capabilities to US national security missions. So this is some very, very serious stuff. So what they're going to be doing, as far as I understand, is actually integrating Microsoft's LLMs, large language models, into Palantir's platforms within Microsoft's cloud environments. Okay, so that's what they're going to be doing. Now, the reason that this work has to be done by these two companies, Palantir and Microsoft, pretty much these two companies, is because these are two of only 3 in the entire world that have Impact Level 6, IL Level 6 clearance. Now, this is the certification, you could say. Now, this is the highest security clearance that can be handed out by the Pentagon. This then enables them to work with the most classified, highly confidential data. You don't see the US government doing their highest national security missions with any old company. It would not work. Now, just a little side thought, and do let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Amazon's AWS in particular, is the 3rd company with this IL Level 6 clearance. They're the 3, Microsoft, Palantir, Amazon, AWS. They're the only 3. Now, what I'm thinking is that, you know, a few months, however long, we might actually see a very, very similar deal for similar work with US security missions actually announced between AWS and Palantir. That would mean that our little old Palantir, which isn't even a mega cap company, you know, market cap's still quite small, they're still growing, still in early days, would then be working with Microsoft and Amazon to bring capabilities to the US government for some of the most serious work. It's a pretty big deal. You know, they are getting these massive contracts, government side, commercial side, with big companies that everyone knows about, and they are still in their infancy. So that's my prediction, but who knows? We'll see if that actually happens. And then yesterday, we had more news come out that actually Surf Air Mobility, I hope I'm remembering that right, Surf Air Mobility, yeah, I think so, is going into a new business venture with Palantir. Now, again, they have been working together for a while, since 2021, but this is actually very different. This is a really different type of partnership. They're not simply just leveraging AIP. They're not simply just using the Foundry platform. They're doing something much bigger. And I'm going to actually dive into this partnership in a later video because it deserves a lot more time. It deserves, you know, a lot more recognition. It's a big deal, and it actually underpins, it highlights something very important that Palantir are doing and are able to do that people are not realizing that should not be brushed over. So save that thought. Surf OS we'll talk about, to do with Surf Air Mobility and Palantir, in a very upcoming video. The last thing that could be driving the stock higher and could keep it above 30, maybe, potentially, like I said, doesn't really matter at this stage, is the upcoming S&P 500 inclusion. Periodically during the year, companies get the chance to be included in the S&P 500, and equally, some companies that aren't making the cut anymore get axed. They get sliced out of the index, which is obviously not great for those companies, but it's exciting because Palantir have met all the criteria required to actually be eligible for inclusion. They have for a while. Up until this point, they haven't actually been included. We could talk about why I have in previous videos. You know, there's lots of theories on that, but you know, they are eligible, and that's the point. They could be included if the committee, the people on the panel, decide. The next inclusion decision is coming up towards the end of September, I believe. Now, obviously, I've spoken about this again time and time before. If they do get included, if they do get added, it does put quite a lot of pressure on the stock, and it normally does drive it in the upward direction. Not guaranteed, but you know, if you are included in the S&P 500, your stock is then being purchased by anyone buying ETFs, index funds, tracking that index. It does add a lot of buying pressure. Institutional ownership goes up and money comes flowing in. It's what we would expect to see. It is not guaranteed. Do let me know if you actually want Palantir to even be added. I've seen quite a lot of things on X where people are saying, do you know what, just keep Palantir out of it. I'll keep buying at these prices and we'll get an inclusion eventually in the future anyway. This is a big milestone for a company to actually be added. So I'm going to leave it there on that note. Yeah, been an interesting time filming in the public, in the woods, but I hope you've liked this video. If you want to come and join my Patreon, you get access to the Discord. We chat on that every day about all different things, all different stocks, investing in general. It's a great time over there. A real community is building, and I'm absolutely loving discussing ideas and strategies and what I'm thinking about different stocks and what they're doing and why things are really important on the Discord. And I share all of my buys and sells and weekly portfolio updates on there as well, and any ideas that don't really fit into a normal, you know, 10 or so minute video. This one's a lot longer, I can see. So yeah, come and join. I'll leave a link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.